Hollywood, for some reason, has decided what this world needs now is a sequel to Top Gun. For this reason, I've decided now is a more appropriate time than ever to review the NES sequel to Top Gun, Second Mission. Top Gun Second Mission for the NES is a 3D flight simulating first-person shooter released by Konami in Japan in 1989 and in the US in 1990. Back in 1987, the original Top Gun game was a huge commercial success, selling over 2 million copies, warranting the creation of a sequel a full 3 years after the original Top Gun game and a full 4 years after the film was in theaters. In Top Gun Second Mission, Maverick is back, this time tasked with destroying a bomber, a helicopter, and a space shuttle. The real travesty of this whole episode is that I felt it was necessary to watch Top Gun to have adequate knowledge to make this review. I really didn't need to do that. I learned nothing. While watching Top Gun, I did notice that Top Gun Second Mission has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. This game is Top Gun only by the title. Game developers have never been able to resist the allure of making licensed games based on film franchises. The NES library is a hotbed of these half-hearted movie games. Titles like The Karate Kid, Home Alone 2, Willow, Platoon, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Back to the Future 2, Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Little Nemo, Total Recall, Jaws, Wayne's World, Lethal Weapon, Mad Max, Dick Tracy, Friday the 13th, Batman Returns, The Addams Family, just to name a few. I would argue when grabbing a little more cash is the ultimate goal of a project, quality gets sacrificed. Top Gun Second Mission doesn't seem to me to be an exception to this rule. Shooters aren't my favorite genre, and neither are flying simulators. I'm going to start complaining about this game right away. Let's start with the setting and the super weak premise. You play the game from the view of Tom Cruise piloting an F-14 Tomcat, and in my opinion, that's what makes this game all worth playing. After a sweet takeoff scene, you're in the sky chasing other fighter jets in 3 vague missions that are not part of either movie. Like its predecessor, Top Gun Second Mission, every second is a struggle to survive as each stage starts with ridiculously fast-moving dogfighting in the air, followed by a nearly impossible landing on an aircraft carrier. The landing sequences are easy this time around, but still famously difficult. Next, I want to point out how awful this game's graphics are, although in a way, they're kind of non-existent. It is so hard to navigate in this space. Games like Top Gun Second Mission seem to sacrifice so many necessary game elements just so that they can boast that they're in shitty-looking 3D. The sky is one solid color, constantly leaving you wondering where you are. The completely empty background makes it so hard to tell where you're at. I found myself constantly relying on this indicator on my dashboard. There are plenty of shooters available for the NES, but most of them are 2D, which I actually prefer. 3D graphics have been around since the early 80s, but in my opinion, it wouldn't be until another couple decades at least that they'd actually become enjoyable. Visually, this game is just empty, which feels inexcusable since by 1990, the graphics on most NES games being released were just beautiful. The controls in Top Gun Second Mission are pretty simple, yet somehow very frustrating. It's really hard to steer, and you find yourself constantly spinning circles trying to get behind these enemies only to realize they're behind you now. Also, strangely, your enemy's fire seems to defy the law of physics, as you can dodge a missile just to circle your jet around and hit that same missile. All difficulty aside, if you get good enough, it's just a game of memorization as the enemies come in the same order every time. I do want to give this game a point or two for offering aim inversion. It's really cool that such an old game includes an option to invert your aim. I know how important that can be to players that are accustomed to inverted aim, and also traditionally, it's just how flight simulators are supposed to be controlled. One last complaint I have to throw in is that this game has no pause function of any kind. Why not? It really can't be that hard to add a pause option. Now it's time for me to rank this game somewhere between 1 and 715 on my list of greatest games for the NES. To be honest, this game just really isn't doing it for me. Top Gun Second Mission is better than the original, but that's about all it has going for it. I still get a little angry with these big studios, even decades later, trying to push a crappy product just to squeeze a few more bucks out of their crappy movie. If this game had been released as a generic flight simulator first-person shooter, I personally don't think it would have gotten nearly the attention that it did with its Top Gun labeling. But that's just what commercialism is, so I really can't complain. Still, I'm entitled to my opinion, and Top Gun Second Mission overall just doesn't really do it for me. As I don't see it climbing the ranks anytime soon, and this is my show and I can do whatever I want, this cartridge will be ranked number 127 in my list of greatest games for the NES. Why not? I sat through Top Gun for this, after all. Honestly, this game is pretty fun, and I'm making it sound a lot worse than it really is. Sure, I always get mad at licensed games for trying to make a quick buck, but that's just the way the world works. While it's admittedly just not my type of game, 3D shooters on the NES is a small collection to sort through, and Top Gun's Second Mission is one of the more quality titles in that selection.
Thank you for indulging my haphazard NES side project. Click here to watch the newest episode of my main show, Two Guys Decide, or click here to just watch a whole season of it. Or click here to subscribe.